You ever sit down to do something and realize that a whole bunch of time has gone past? Like when you sit down, it's noon, and when you look up at the clock again, you realize it's like 5 or 6 o'clock. Well, imagine instead of a few hours, that happened over the span of several months, because that's kind of what's happened with this podcast. You're listening to Feathermane Soul Wisdom, a podcast designed for people looking to live embodied lives and find their authentic selves. This show is hosted by Kit Kaelstow, body theologian and spiritual mentor. If you're looking to get in touch with your inner spirit, then this show is for you. Thanks for listening. And now, this week's show. So hi, it's Kit Kaelstow of Feathermane Soul Wisdom, and I am here just to bring you a really short episode to bring you up to speed, because the last podcast that I published was in April, and at that time I was finishing up my spring semester in college. It was getting a little crazy, due in large part to some teachers nickel and diming me for some papers. I'm a published author. Writing is something I do, and I do very well, and I can do relatively easily. But they were requesting little pieces of the paper to be turned in, and then there had to be peer review on every one of those little pieces. And I'm not going to lie, it got very tedious. It got very overwhelming. I also had some technical issues with my podcast hosting. I wanted to move it around. That took longer than I thought. And then I got very sick this summer. I am feeling better, although I still don't have answers for what happened. And I have to be really careful about like my stress levels and how much I do, because I could very easily relapse. So there was a whole bunch of things that happened. And so even though you didn't see a lot coming out in terms of this podcast or in terms of the blog, I can assure you that there was a lot happening behind the scenes. So I am pleased to announce that I will be scheduling several episodes. I actually managed to record 4 episodes, so about one every month or so, while I was taking a hiatus. And so I will get those episodes scheduled. And so the episode that I want to kind of start with will be the episode that I'm going to be recording just as soon as I finish with this. And you're going to see that probably around the end of October, first part of November. And that's kind of where you're going to see everything come together that I've been working on all summer, as well as some thoughts that I have. So just want to let you know the podcast didn't go away. There were some things that happened. I really appreciate you hanging in there with me. And thank you so much for listening to Feathermane Soul Wisdom. You've been listening to the Feathermane Soul Wisdom podcast, hosted by Kit Kaelstow. Learn more about Feathermane Soul at feathermanesoul.com. Kit's passionate about embodied living and finding authentic joy by connecting with yourself and others. Kit loves working with neurodivergent, chronically ill, or disabled individuals, as well as anyone who wants to reclaim the stories and find new stories for them. Music is Running with the Horses by Purple Planet Music. This podcast is hosted on the Muse Charmer Media Network. Find out more by visiting the podcast website and following the links to Muse Charmer. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow the podcast at your favorite podcast listening or social media site. Thank you.